Hello and welcome to Military Mayday. We're pointing out a few pieces on the chessboard. A couple articles here today we're going to go over. This one here, Ukraine, Zelensky rejects Russian ceasefire. Again, this is multiple times he's rejected to even talk truce or anything. He claims it's because Russia will rearm during the ceasefire. Well, I'm sure if I was Zelensky, I'd be rearming up too. That would be a smart thing, but at the same time, you could have talks. I guess he don't want to do that. He has won support from Lithuania. I guess Lithuania will send some support to him. We'll read the article. It's a short article. Next one's going to be Medvedev warns of nuclear response if Ukraine hits missile launch sites inside of Russia, is where he's talking about. And Russia in 2020 had as a nuclear doctrine set out in the conditions in which nukes can be deployed, and that is one of those conditions, hitting their missile sites. This is a smaller article too. We'll go to both of them, but before we do, smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Help us out. People might want to hear this stuff. Might be more like you and me out there than there's not. Ukrainian President Zelensky has ruled out a ceasefire in his country as he believes Kremlin's forces will rearm. Speaking during a visit to Estonia, he said a pause on the Ukrainian battlefield will not mean a pause of the war. A pause would play into Russia's hands. It might crush us afterwards. While limited ceasefires have been proposed since Russia's invasion in February 2022, they have never taken hold. Both sides are scrambling to replenish their weapons after 22 months of fighting, and with the protracted conflict, they each require artillery shells, missiles, and drones that enable long-range, while roughly 630-mile front line stays mostly static during freezing winter weather. Zelensky was in the Estonian capital Tallinn as part of the two-day tour of the Baltic countries, which has been among Ukraine's staunchest supporters in the war. He said Moscow is allegedly buying artillery shells and missiles from North Korea and drones from Iran. He is pressing allies to provide his country with more support after already receiving billions of military aid from its Western allies. And boy, hey, he got billions. Estonian President Alar Kassar said during a joint press conference with Zelensky that the presidential palace, Ukraine needs more. It needs better weapons. We must boost military production capabilities so that Ukraine may get what it needs. And it's not tomorrow. They should get it today. Mr. Karas noted that the European Union countries have so far provided $85 billion of support to Ukraine. The flow of support has slowed, alarming the Ukrainians, who would find it hard to stand alone against their biggest neighbor. Joe Biden sends $60 billion, and new funding to Kyiv is being held up in Congress. A pledge made by the European to March to provide 1 million artillery shells in 12 months has fallen short, which is about 300,000 deliveries so far, though Moscow officials insist they aim only at military targets. Recent massive Russian barrages, more than 500 drones, 29 on second. Mr. Zelensky won a pledge for more from Lithuania on Wednesday and was heading to Latvia after Estonia, a small Eastern European country and among Ukraine's staunchest political, financial, and military supporters. Some people in the Baltics worry they could be Moscow's next target. Three countries were seized and annexed by Joseph Stalin during the Second World War and regained independence with the breakup of the Soviet Union in 1991. They joined NATO in 2004, placing themselves under the military protection of the U.S. and its Western allies. A Russian 300 missile hit a hotel in Kyiv, Ukraine's second largest city, late on Wednesday, injuring 13 people, including a Turkish journalist. Regional governor said the city has been attacked for 4 consecutive nights, the governor said. So, they could probably do some talks, but I guess Zelensky won't even do that, or he's being told not to. Moscow, a senior ally of President Vladimir Putin, warned on Thursday that any Ukrainian attacks on missile launch sites inside of Russia with arms supplied by the United States and its allies would risk a nuclear response from Moscow. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, now deputy chairman of Russian Security Council, said that some Ukrainian military commanders were considering hitting missile launch sites inside Russia with Western-supplied long-range missiles. He did not name the commanders or disclose more details of the alleged plan. There was no immediate reaction from the Ukraine to his threat. What does this mean? It means only one thing. They risk running into action of paragraph 19 of the fundamentals of Russia's state policy in the field of nuclear deterrence. Paragraph 19 of Russia's 20 nuclear doctrine sets out conditions under which a Russian president would consider using a nuclear weapon broadly as a response to an attack using nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction, or to the use of conventional weapons against Russia when the very existence of the state is put under threat. Medvedev made specific mentions to point G of the paragraph 19, which deals with the nuclear response to a conventional weapons attack. Putin is in the decision-maker when it comes to the Russians' vast nuclear arsenal, but diplomats said Medvedev's view gives an indication of hawkish thinking at the top of the Kremlin, which has cast the war as an existential struggle with the West. Kremlin critics have dismissed some of the Medvedev's nuclear threats in the past as an attempt to grab attention or to dissuade the West from supplying Ukraine with more weapons. The United States and its allies have pledged nearly $250 billion in military and other support to Kyiv. Yeah, that's about right. The risk of nuclear escalation has hung over the Ukrainian war since Russia sent thousands of troops to its neighbors February 2022. Russia feared the nuclear escalation in 2022, and Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, that year communicated concerns in Moscow about any steps towards use of a nuclear device. Russia and the United States are by far the world's biggest nuclear powers. Putin controls almost 6,000 nuclear warheads, controls 5,200 nuclear warheads. Medvedev cast himself as a liberal modernizer when he was president from 08 to 12, but now presents himself as a fiercest anti-Western Kremlin hawks. Whatever the fuck that means. Well, it's a threat, and it's by somebody who's high up, who's used to be the president, who works under Putin, which means Putin probably told him to say that. Anywho, subscribe, like the channel. Toodaloo.